Hey, folks, welcome to Agency Action with Toby and Kurt. Thrilled to have Toby Cryns with me. And with that, I'm sure Toby's going to say he's got a question for me.
Kurt, I've just been dealing with hiring. I've hired 9 employees this year in 2025. We're looking to hire another one right now. So I've been thinking about this a lot. And let's just start from the top. What makes a good boss?
Are you asking me? It's so weird because, and I actually talk about this when I do some public speaking gigs. By nature, I was not a good boss. By nature, I was a hard-nosed jerk. As an employee, I was a high producer. Like I always worked hard. I had a workaholic tendency, and I worked really hard. And so when people would promote me to manager, I believed in work harder, work faster. Why? Because I said so. Like, these are the goals. We must attain these goals. If we don't hit these goals, you know what? Other people will work here too. Like, and I was not good. I was not a good leader at all. So I think when I was younger, I embraced management, but not leadership. And as I got older, I realized something's not working. Like, people don't like working with me. Like, people enjoyed the successes that we had, but they didn't enjoy working with me. And so I started diving into some stuff, and I got wrapped up in the John Maxwell leadership stuff. And I read a ton of his books and then ended up getting John Maxwell certified. Through that process, I think I really learned things like how to extend grace to people, how to understand that if someone does something 80% to my level, that's super sufficient. Um, and just realizing that, especially as an entrepreneur, you'll hear other entrepreneurs say something like, I'm really looking for my team members to take ownership of something. Like, I need them to take ownership of this project. Well, they're not going to take ownership of the project. It's not theirs to own. They're just working on it. And so we have to recognize sometimes that our level of buy-in as employees and then entrepreneurs is typically much higher than the average person's buy-in, and we just have to be cognizant of it and extend grace in that area.
Wondering about this ownership thing because it's something I've been thinking a lot about. So I'm with you. Like, it's very difficult to have somebody take ownership of anything for a variety of reasons, unless it's their butt on the line, like truly their money they've invested,
Yeah.
and not even their job, but like actually their money and reputation. But what I've been wondering is if there are ways to break that down into things that aren't ownership, but like a process. So, for example, in web development, one thing I'm struggling with my team currently is QA. My web developers are not doing a QA to my standard. And I'm wondering, and to me, you could translate that as ownership. Like, you just gave me something that you said is ready for the client, and it's not at all ready. There's some, to me, obvious things that wouldn't pass basic QA. And so you could say that's ownership, or maybe there's a checklist I could create and that, hey, you're an employee. Did you complete the checklist? Did you check the header against the artwork? Did you check mobile?
Yeah. Those are really good points. So because I'm such an e-learning nerd, what we do is we make video screen shares of our processes, and then we save those video screen shares and convert them into lessons for a private course in the back end of our website. So when we hire a contractor or bring someone new to staff, I don't have to like train them per se. Like we onboard them and, hey, this is Kurt and this is Hayden and this, like we have those, we onboard them, but we don't actually train them. We say, okay, the position that we hired you for, those skills basically fall within these 3 sections of this course. So you need to take the 3 sections of this course, complete those lessons, and then once you do that, you're equipped, you're knowledgeable about our process on how we do this. And by doing that, to your point, that's like a checklist kind of, but I think having the course makes it more, more interactive. It's more complete because they actually see an example of it. So we've been using that. And I agree. Ownership doesn't mean like, like you have a note in here that says, when is grace just enabling bad performance? we never want to enable bad performance. We always want to encourage people, hey, you could be better at this, or how could I help you get better at that? And I think that's where the difference between leadership and management comes in. Management would be like, hey, you just need to do better, right? And leadership is like, hey, there's some gaps in performance here. How can I help you do this better? You know? And I think that that is kind of like shifting the blame or the responsibility to us, because we're the head of it. We should make sure that these standards are in place. And if there's a gap in understanding, I'm here to fill that gap of understanding. Now, if there's no gap in understanding and they're just lazy, well, then we need somebody else.
I think it's sometimes hard to know as a manager and a leader, like who is just not up to snuff and who just needs to be led differently.
This blends my two lives together, right? Because I have the agency, but I also have that whole power sports training, angle of my business. And Toby, this is the weirdest thing. So we offer our training for fixed operations to motorcycle dealerships. So we teach dealerships how to increase their parts and labor sales. And so we have this, it's a great curriculum. It's an awesome curriculum. But now we have dealer owners that are actually coming to our sales team and they're saying, look, my service manager's been doing this for 30 years. My service manager's been doing this for 20 years. He needs an advanced course. Like, we're not doing this course for beginners nonsense. He needs an advanced course. And then I get these guys on the screen and we're training 6, 7, sometimes 10 dealers at a time. And I'll say, okay, by a show of hands, how many of you know how many motorcycles you worked on last month? None of the hands go up. How many of you know how many hours your technicians turned? None of the hands go up. And I'm like, all of your owners said that you were advanced service managers. If you don't know the most basic of your numbers, you're not an advanced manager. You're not an advanced leader in this department. And I think that that is the parallel there for this conversation is we make a lot of assumptions about someone's knowledge or skill level, and sometimes we do it based on time, like, oh, you've been doing this for 8 years, you've been doing this for 10 years. But in reality, they've never had any formal training or any kind of process management training for what you're doing. And so we're expecting them to operate at a high level when they've never had experience at that level.
Another thing I run into as a leader of the company is with the development team in particular, because my experience professionally as a developer, I am expecting them to be me when it comes to development. And with all my like idiosyncrasies, bad habits, good habits, and I get angry internally. I try to never share my anger. And I try to always be productive, but I do get internally, sometimes I'm just burning and I'm like closing the computer, walking away because they didn't fix the menu. Uh,
Yeah. And now I'm curious, do you find yourself getting angry more with newer people or seasoned people on your team?
well, this is the question about leadership and can you change people? Should you give them grace? It's tough. I get angry. I don't think it's about seasoned or not. It's about are they are they taking ownership? And here's an example. I'm consulting right now with a company that is over 40 years old. And the CEO brought me in. We have weekly calls with him and two of his leadership team. And my role in those meetings is to just push the company forward. Like, we're an old established company and we're stodgy and we need to change because AI is going to change our company.
Yeah. This is the way we've always done it.
So it's been going on since I think June or July. And basically, my first project with them was like, let's just think of something innovative to do. And what they did, they thought of some, it took us all this time. We thought of something, not we, but they really, I was just pushing them to think of something. My objective was like, did you think of something good? Um, Something actionable, like a project that we could execute on and deliver. They did it. They scheduled the project for a variety of reasons to start in June of next year. And it's currently October 24th of this year. And I was like, great. We have a thing scheduled for June. let's meet next week and start thinking of the next thing. And they're not going to do it. They're just like, no, we thought of the thing. It's in June. We're going to talk. Maybe next October we can start talking again. And I'm like, and it's super frustrating to me is I'm not even an owner of the company. I'm just really just doing a favor for a friend. And I'm getting so frustrated on this call. And I was really grateful because they do this really strict thing where they do the free Zoom and it ends in 45 minutes and whatever. And literally, they said we're not doing it, and I'm like, well, and then I got cut off. I was like, well, that was a relief because I was really going to lay into the exhibit bad behavior, bad leadership, or maybe I don't know.
Did you know that that's how Mañana no Mas was actually born?
How's that?
The name? I had a group of customers in a conference room and none of them did their homework, like their content for their websites. And it was supposed to be a group meeting to go over the strategies to launch launch the sites. And no one had done their homework. And I used to work in South Albuquerque, very Hispanic neighborhood. And I lost it. I just lost it. And I went, Mañana no Mas. There is no easy button. I can't do this. If you're not vested in your own success, I can't make you successful. Like, you cannot put off till tomorrow what you should be doing today. Mañana no Mas. And the guy that ran the office center wheels out on his chair and he goes, hey, Kurt, that would be a good name for your business. And that was it. Yeah, that was 2008.
I think I've run into issues when I've been trying to be very honest and give honest feedback as well. And I don't regret giving the feedback, although I think at times I maybe could deliver it differently based on the reactions I've gotten sometimes. And it would be, and I think I'm getting better with age and experience,
Yeah.
but where I might have used to say, you promised to deliver this today and you have not delivered it. What do, what do you want? What's going on? That's what I might have used to say. Now I might couch it a little differently and say, uh, just try to say it in a way that's
Yeah.
where they can get me what I want, but also have save some face maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's when you say things like, while I understand that life happens, we also have firm deadlines we have to meet for our clients. I was expecting this deliverable on such and such a time or hour, and I haven't received it yet. If I've missed it, please bring it to my attention. But if you haven't delivered it yet, I need to understand why.
I like your thought too there about delivering the feedback in the context of this isn't arbitrary. I've promised something because you promised something.
Yeah.
The client's expecting it. This is making us look bad.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That I mean, and so I do have someone in my circles that always says, "Oh, you're so diplomatic," and it's funny because, like I said earlier, I didn't used to be that guy, but now it's like I get it. Like life does happen, obstacles do happen. Computers do need updated. Sometimes the internet goes down, especially if you're on Amazon Web Services. Sometimes things happen, but it's like you go, I get it. I understand that things happen. We also have firm deadlines.
Mhm.
So we have to balance that out and we have to figure that out. And so, problem solving that moving forward, you just say, hey, are you overcommitting and under delivering? Like, if you're telling me that you can get something done by October 24th and today's October 24th and it's not here, did you overcommit? Like you knew you weren't going to have it done by the 24th and you thought November 1st would be okay anyway? Like, if that was your thinking, you should have just told me November 1st.
Yep. I'm going to change the same kind of topic of what is a good boss. I was doing an interview this week and I was surprised by a really good question from the person I was interviewing for the job. And they said, what are the growth opportunities career wise at the Mighty Mo? And I thought, let me think about that for a minute. First of all, we don't have a lot of roles to choose from. First of all,
Yeah.
there's hopefully nobody leaves. So there's hopefully going to be no positions open for you to move into. But I was thinking about it and I let her know I said, if you're an enterprising person that sees opportunities and jumps at those opportunities, there will be opportunities for growth here because we're in growth mode.
That's a lot of growth you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It does make sense. I just I try to be I have contractors that ask me that all the time, right? Like, so what's the upscale potential of revenue at Manana No Mas? Well, you and I are both entrepreneurs. We're like, the sky's the limit, baby. Like, if you are a go-getter and you bring referrals and you help with sales and we knock out these proposals, we will continue to grow and there will be plenty of revenue. And if you want to, and if we grow to the point where I have to have, two different project managers and things, that's phenomenal. That's great. But it's not going to be like mama bird feeding baby bird. Like, you got to be on the team and we have to make this happen. Like, there's no just sitting back and growing with the company as it goes, because if the team isn't putting in the effort, that scaling doesn't happen. And I think this would be a newsflash to a lot of agencies. I'm realizing that my desire for growth doesn't match a lot of other people's desire for growth. Right now, like, I have a series of videos I do on Fridays called Fitness Focus Freedom Friday. And it's literally like I can do anything I want because I'm an entrepreneur. Like, I don't have to grow this thing into this giant, commercial endeavor. I just need to pay my bills, reach some goals, and move forward. And if I have people on my team that enjoy the revenue along the way, that's awesome. But if they're thinking, what do I got to do to become Kurt? Well, you got to wait for me to die.
Yeah.
So how's that going to work?
I had a CEO of the Mighty Mo at one point, and he was with us for a couple of years. And at first, it was really helpful. And then about a year and a half into his tenure, he he wanted to scale back the Mighty Mo, not for the Mighty Mo's sake or my sake, but because he wanted to like take more vacation.
Yeah, this is going to be too much, man.
And he started taking vacations, and he's like, I can work from vacation. It's fine. And while he would show up, his internet connection was spotty, and he was really just embarrassing me, like with clients, because his internet was so bad.
Yeah.
I ended up having to fire him. That was, I guess, so there are like, even at that level, there are people who just don't get it.
No,
And
but there's got to be alignment, right? And so that takes you to, are you going to hire for skill, for attitude, for their groovy vibe on the phone calls? Like what is it that you actually hire for? Um, I've been a part of some what I consider big Zoom calls. I've had a larger agency bring me in as like a sales engineer. I had a client bring me in as a sales engineer on a deal to the Department of Defense once. And what I found really interesting about it was there was like 30 people on this call, and they're from the Department of Defense, and there's all these, military folks and professional people. And it takes us back to what I said about service managers. You make the assumption that everybody's operating at this high level, and then it only takes 5 or 10 minutes of the call to realize they're still here. They're trying to ask me smart questions about, e-learning programs, and they're not smart questions. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And then my client at the end of the call is like, oh, thank God you were there. Your vibe on the call was exactly what they wanted. And I ended up serving not only as the sales engineer, but as like the salesperson, the marketing, like I ended up fielding the whole call. And then I got to wonder to myself, well, why am I filling this role? I should just be going to the Department of Defense myself and pitching my own contract,
yep,
right?
yep.
So how do you
It's
hire? Are you looking for vibes, for feelings, for skill sets?
definitely not feelings, definitely not vibes. I'm looking for someone with a skill set and maybe talent, but I don't even know that talent's the thing. And I think what I really, and this is where I think a lot of people fail at the Mighty Mo over the years, is with communication.
Yeah.
And most of our team right now is not native. English is their second language, most of our team. And so it's not about English language skills, but it's, are you organized? So I had a call today with one of my teammates, and it was his meeting. He was leading it. And I get there, I'm like, where's the agenda? And he didn't have one. And then I was like,
You're
okay,
like,
let's go.
bye.
Well, pretty much we talked for 20, 30 minutes, and I was like, I still don't know what we're talking about. And so I said, okay, we're going to stop the meeting. when can we reschedule this for? And we reschedule it. I said, to start next meeting, show up with an agenda, because otherwise, what are we talking about? And the verdict's still out, or the jury's still out. We'll see what happens. And this might be a deal breaker for working at the Mighty Mo. Can you deliver the things in a way that people can understand them?
And then this takes us into a different conversation for me. So when I hire people, um, they used to call it personality types, right? But I actually try to examine people for their work style. And so you could there's the four personality types: melancholy, choleric, and all that, but you could break it into normal words. You could say, like, if you think of the term real, right? REAL. There's rulers, there's entertainers, there's analysts, and there's loyalists. Loyalists, they just wanted an L on real, right? So that's really like emotional people, right? Um, so when I'm looking to work with people on my team, I don't I don't necessarily need to hire the entertainer or the ruler as the primary work traits, because I hold those. I so we have a very small footprint as far as people go. And so if I bring too many rulers to the team or too many rulers to these Zoom calls, there's going to be a conflict, right? And so I'm very much, I hate to say personality, but I'm looking for work communication styles. And so you, by demonstrating that you like having that agenda, the agenda is the sign of an analyst, right? So you're coming at it from a developer analyst perspective, and then they're coming at it probably from an entertainer's perspective. And they don't understand why you're upset that there's no agenda, because, we're just having this meeting to communicate anyway. Um, but it's, to me, I always try to figure out, like, what blend of people do I need on my team, and what's going to serve my customers the best through that blend. And then secondary to me is the actual skill set, because most of the skills can be trained as long as they have a foundation in it. Like, for instance, I am foundationally handicapped at graphics. I'm not very inventive and creative and artistic. But I've got a couple of girls on my team that are phenomenal artists. And so for me, that works. But the problem is, one of them is completely completely a loyalist, like emotions, I guess, chews a lot of gummies and gets really out there sometimes. And because I'm a ruler, entertainer, work style type, it's hard for me sometimes to wrap around all of the vines that she creates with her product. So I have to reel her back in. But her core product and her core skill set is awesome. So I can deal with the communication style.
Hmm. This kind of similarly, I was having a conversation with the person who owns a company similar to mine. It's just he has 60 or 70 employees now in Minneapolis, and abroad. So he has at least one team in Africa and probably employees elsewhere too. But a lot of his team is in the cities here. But we had a conversation about mission, vision, that sort of stuff, and where we kind of landed. And so we're at different places with our businesses. And so I don't want to say you need this or don't need that. He said it wasn't what he said the mission and vision were not important until he was extracted from the day-to-day operations. And then it became more important because people are like, why are we here? What are we doing? Like, what are we pointing towards? And he was like, when I wasn't there telling people, like, showing them through my actions, the mission and vision became more important.
Yeah. Well, you could definitely see that, right? It's if you think about being on a boat, if the captain's on the boat, everything, but if the captain takes the dinghy and goes to shore, what happens on the boat, right? And so, yeah, you have to have a mission and a vision so that people understand the direction we're going. It's amazing because companies that are on the outside identical can be completely different on the inside, and it's super important to understand, like, people's hearts, where they come from, and if there's an alignment for you. I have I've told you before, when we lived in California, the economy was so rough on us, we had to say yes to everything. And then the freedom that comes with moving to a better economy for us, and being able to say, oh, that's not really a great fit for us right now. Like, that's so freeing to be able to go, I'm only working with the people that I really want to work with, right? And then the quality of the work is better, the output is better, the relationship with the client's better, our revenue is up, per project. So Realistically, it's been really good.
Do you think, let's say you're an agency looking to grow, you've been the founder, you've been responsible for generating all the business to date. Should you hire a salesperson?
That's a trick question, Toby. That's a trick question. So I have to look at this. I've just had this conversation with someone the other day. They were saying, "Oh, well, we got plenty of clicks and we got plenty of this and plenty of that, but we just don't have that many customers coming in every month." And I was thinking about conversations I had had with you, and I said, "But everything you described isn't sales. You just described marketing. You just described branding and marketing, and you're thinking that branding and marketing is going to convert to sales. Branding and marketing is not going to convert to sales. You need to pick up the phone and call these people that visited your website. Because you have this thing for, abandoned shopping cart and whatnot. You have some way to contact these people. You need to jump in their inbox, man." Um, and he was like, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Look, I know you hate it. I know you hate it. But if you don't do it, you're not going to see the results." Right. Um, so when you say, should you hire a salesperson? I look at my own performance and I say, yeah, I probably should hire a salesperson. I probably should, because even if I'm still pounding the pavement, if I add effort to that pavement pounding, we should see results, because we make a ton of content, right? So I'm in the same boat. I make a ton of content. I'm on like 5 different podcasts a week. I get plenty of exposure. But when I look at the actual like plays for the shorts or plays on my YouTube live or plays on my Instagram reel, it's 50, 100. That's not going to generate revenue. So to generate revenue, we got to go out, we got to meet people, press the flesh.
Yeah. As I've been researching it this year, because I've been looking to double our revenue, and we're at about 180% of last year's revenue today. And so we might get there this year. So we might meet that goal. Yeah. Um, I was thinking, and this is my most recent hire was a full-time LinkedIn lead generation expert. And the strategy is and this is something that most marketers don't understand, because they read marketing books that are built for like how to have 1 million customers.
Yeah.
And what those books totally fail to capture is we don't need 1 million, we need like 10 this year. And and what that might look like compared, let's say you're not going for 1 million, and what you need is 10 high paying customers. It probably looks something like scanning LinkedIn for potential people you need to meet, figuring out how to meet them. Here's an example. I was talking to someone who's a musician, and they're very talented. I've known them for decades. And they want to I was like, "Well, what's your dream?" They want to have an audience with a few huge players like Billy Corgan, two other people like Radiohead, some other person that you've heard of. Oh, it was Eminem. And I go, "Great." And she's describing it and thinking about it as a marketing problem. I go, "This is not a marketing problem. This is a sales problem.
It's a picking
You
up the phone problem.
you can get into that room with those people. It's not going to be easy. But you know what? Getting in front of the CEO of Best Buy or Walmart is also not. That might even be more hard than getting in front of Billy Corgan." And I was advising her, and this is how I'm approaching my business. But I said, you need to figure out that LinkedIn network of that person, the tree, like who's the closest you can get to them right now. Maybe it's the friend of the front desk person, of the assistant, of go have lunch with that friend, and then see if you can get in with the assistant to the assistant to the assistant. You got to work that. And then maybe in 6 months, maybe you can get that 5-minute audience with Billy Corgan where he's ready to hear your music, and not a surprise like, "Hey, I'm here, listen to this," but like, "Hey, friend, I heard this is Billy talking.
Yeah. I heard
I'm
you a
here to
friend.
I such and such advised me to have a conversation with you. They said you have some neat music. Let's hear it." That's
Yeah.
the goal. And that's the sales problem. And that's what the Mighty Mo's trying to solve for as well, that same problem.
I think I shared this with you, but I'll share it publicly on the airwaves. Why not? Um, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as well. I went from 1,200 connections to 10,000 connections in the matter of like 2.5 years. During that time, I invited all of the new connections to a short icebreaker conversation. And I have spoken to probably 7,000 of the 10,000 people. When I speak to them, not obviously they're not all ready to buy a website or ready to buy our services. So I don't go at it like a hard sales gig. I just go at it like, hey, let's break the ice. Who are you? What are you about? What do you do when you're not working? If you weren't doing this for a living, what would you really do? Right. And that's where I find out where people are like, oh, I hate this corporate job. I'm actually thinking of writing a book and becoming a coach or something. Right. So I help them explore that. And all this happens in 15 minutes. And I end the call like once the ice is broken and once there's communication, I'll say, hey, you know what? I realize you're probably not up for my services, right now. I just want to be front of mind for you as time goes by. But who do you know that I should know? And then we agree to do what we call referral ping pong. We basically just send each other, hey, I'm friends with Toby Cryns. You should meet Toby. He's from Minnesota. And they go, oh, that's cool. I'm from Minnesota too. And you do that, 10, 15, 20 times, you've got another 100 people on your list. And who do you know that I should know? And that just turns into a giant circle of introductions. And some people say it's wasting time, but I will tell you that it has netted me revenue. So it's not a time waster.
And part of the when you think of optimizing sales, like a sales process, is you got to be a little more strategic because, like the criticism that you're hearing, well, I can't have coffee with everyone. Yeah, don't have coffee with everyone.
Yeah.
Have coffee with, figure out who you need to have coffee with, and figure out how to have coffee with them.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Because I'm not just inviting everybody on LinkedIn to have a conversation. I am picking people through a strategic search, connecting with those people, and then asking them if they want to have an icebreaker conversation. I'm not trying to sell them anything in their DMs. I'm not sending them paragraphs and nonsense. I just say, thanks for connecting. Do you want to have an icebreaker conversation? And they go, talk about what? It's a great question. What do you want to talk about? Here's a link.
Hmm.
That's it.
Yep.
And then it's amazing how many people say yes because you're not pitching them something in the DMs and spamming them to death. And then I just say, who do you know that I should know? Like, hey, you know what? We've got to know each other a little bit in the last 10 or 15 minutes. You seem pretty solid. Who do you know that I should know?
Hmm.
I met really cool people that way. I met a guy named David Valentine who ended up being a guest on my podcast. And he is a tremendous serial entrepreneur, like a really cool person to talk to and get to know a little bit, you know? And I was on the Eric Allen podcast, same way, just connecting to people, connecting the dots and getting invited to shows or to different things.
And I think part of the argument here is, in lieu of doing nothing, do something. So coffee with the nobody, way more advantageous to you than no coffee at all.
And no coffee at all. Yeah. It's such a weird thing because you and I have both, I feel like I'm going to say it again. You and I are obviously working, like we're putting in time, we're doing shows, we're getting exposure, we're doing all this. And then we know people in the same kind of like agency space who don't do a dang thing and seem to be plenty busy. Right. And
Yeah, and I
so does that come from skin in the game, like longevity in the business and referral? Or how are they staying busy without the work, without putting in the work?
yeah, it'd be so right. So we know people who are doing that. I often wonder though about what I'm trying to fix in my business is I want more and steady work. Like I want more leads, more steady flow of leads, more steady deals. Because right now, I've lasted 19 years without doing any marketing except for SEO, and it's been very like like. But I go like some. There's been times where it's like, oh, it's been 2 months I haven't closed a deal,
Yeah.
and then I go out there and I go to LinkedIn or Facebook. I start at, I do WordPress, and then all of a sudden I get a deal. And part of this is the end game. And now I'm old, and I'm like, I would love to at some point have more options to take the day off, options to sell my business, options to reinvest in my business, to make it bigger if I want,
Yeah.
have more fun with the business, whatever. And I think to do that, in order to have that sort of flexibility, you need more and consistent quality leads, and an ability to close those. And all that, in an ideal world, happens without you
Yeah.
found.
Well, and here's an interesting thing to think of from the opposite, complete opposite side of this conversation, and that's we make websites for other people for other projects, and we kind of see from our exposure how their venture does, which to me is an invaluable insight. I've gotten to see a lot of people launch businesses, and I've seen ones that fail. I've seen ones that succeed. I've seen things that work. And so for me, with my power sports background, I was making these e-learning websites for all these different companies, and I made one for Ducati. I made one for Suzuki. I made one. So I was like, okay, how does this? So I got to understand the business model, right? And then I thought, well, I could just keep making websites for other people, or I could try and launch one of my own successful projects. Since I already know how the web stuff works, I could try and emulate that success. And so I built the Power Sport Academy. And for years it sat and did nothing. But as of last year, it's on track to do $60,000 in revenue a year. And so to your point, that's kind of like where some of that freedom can come from as well. If you master the website of business and then you get to learn from the trial and errors of your clients, you get to kind of emulate something that's successful. You can find a recipe that works or fits that's in alignment with you, and then you can build that. So that creates that separate vertical for us. So I don't have to depend on the next e-learning job to pay the mortgage. You know, it's cool. It's just, it kind of spreads things out. And some would say the riches are in the niches and you're too diversified and you're going too wide. You're not going deep enough. There's all these gurus that'll tell you things, but I've been on that treadmill before with, 3, 4 months without closing a deal. And I'll tell you, it's nice to have a different vertical creating revenue.
And what you're describing is this is the why, probably, of why you need to invest in marketing and sales as a leader of your business. I'm not saying you need to, you listener, you Kurt, but if you want to make more money doing the same amount of hours and same amount of labor, who wouldn't want that? That's
Yeah.
what the goal is. And I'm not saying make $1 million a year, but if you're making 50,000, wouldn't it be nice to make 60,000 and do no more work?
Yeah. Well, and I think on this subject, and I know that we're running good on time, I think we can close just like one more consideration in this topic. You're building your business, I'm building my business. Is there an exit strategy for this endeavor, or is it like one day you don't wake up and then your family goes, "What do we do with all this?" Hey, I found a list of passwords in Dad's desk.
They're lucky.
What do we
My
do with this?
my family can't even find the list of passwords. But yeah, the question is, what are you building for towards? What's your exit plan? And it's all related. If you don't want an exit plan, you have a certain set of options that it's probably more options actually. If you want a healthy exit plan that you really feel good about, you're going to need to build out these functions that we're talking about.
I I think about this frequently because I am older now, and that is when I was looking for work and I couldn't find work back 2007, 2008, right? When I was looking for work, couldn't find work. I got tired of looking for work, so I invented a job. And Mañana no Mas was a great job for a while, right? But then I said, it's not really a business if I don't sustain anyone else other than myself. It's not really a business, it's a job. And so then I started thinking, well, how do I sustain other people? And then I was like, okay, well, that means I got to bring in contractors. In your case, you bring in employees. I do contractors. But I had to, like, how do I sustain other people? And it's not limited to just the United States. I mean, I've got people around the globe as well. So how do I sustain other people? Then it feels like business, right? Because now it's not just a job. I'm creating employment for other people, which is awesome. Um, but then comes the exit plan. Like, how would I exit this? And if it's just some kind of like 5 contractors and a handful of clients and a hodgepodge of things kind of stuck together, there's nothing to sell. There's no value to that. But if I create processes and have a process manual, and we have like an onboarding direction for people and a pathway, like if we have strategy to our business, all of a sudden it becomes viable for other people to run. And I think that's where the exit strategy, where the value comes in. Like when someone buys an agency, I don't think they're just buying a handful of clients. They want to know, what's the process? How did you build this successfully?
I think one thing that surprised me as a human this late in life is that I now view has not always been the case. I now view growing my business as a rich life experience. Not everybody gets to experience. And so the things you're talking about, employing people, that's a whole world of learning that needs to happen and has been happening over the years. But also hiring a marketing team, which I'm doing right now, and sales team. I've never done that. It's neat. It's a life experience that some people get to experience, others don't.
Do you say, sell me this pen?
It's a good idea. I mean, I should do that. I don't.
Here's what I want you to do. Sell me this pen. Uh, all right. Well, Toby, I think we've kind of killed this topic, man. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. This has been an episode of Agency Action with Kurt and Toby.
Like,
Kurt,
share, and follow.
where can we get in touch with you?
Mañananomas.com for business. If it's personal, you want to make that connection on LinkedIn we were talking about, I'm the only Kurt von Ahnen on LinkedIn. So when you find me, you know you got me.
And I'm also on LinkedIn, Toby Cryns. If you're still with us, ring that bell, subscribe, whatever it is. I know Matt will appreciate it, as will we. Also, leave us a question if you have any questions. We'd love to address it on a future episode. So thanks, everybody.